The old freighter's reactor hummed with a sick rhythm that made Ralph's spine ridges twitch. He loved that sound. It meant his ship, the Bone Harvester, was hungry for another kill. Around him the bridge crew worked in silence, each one a veteran of 100 raids across the outer systems where law meant nothing and strength meant everything. This clicked her mandibles together, the insectoid's way of showing excitement. Her 6 arms danced across the stolen human terminal, manipulating data streams that would have taken any other species days to decode, but this was special. She could crack military encryption like others cracked open food containers. It is ready, Vis announced, her translator box rendering her chittering into flat galactic standard. The human distress protocol is loaded. When I activate it, every Earth ship within 50 light years, think colony vessel New Brisbane, is dying in space with 3,000 souls aboard. Ralph felt his secondary jaw slide open. In what humans would call a smile, his species, the Quen, had ruled these lawless regions for generations. They knew every trick, every weak point, every way to turn mercy into profit. And humans, these strange pink mammals who had burst onto the galactic scene only 30 cycles ago, were about to learn an expensive lesson. The other ships are in position, Ralph asked, though he already knew the answer. His second in command, a hulking breath, grunted affirmation. Thawk's people were muscle, and little else but loyal muscle was worth its weight in refined metals. 6 warships total, Captain, all hidden in the debris field. The humans will fly right into our teeth. Ralph pulled up the tactical display. The ambush point was perfect, a dead star system thick with the corpses of shattered planets. Sensor shadows everywhere. His coalition could hide their entire fleet in there, and the best military scanners would see nothing but rocks and radiation. This was how the syndicate worked. 43 successful ambushes in the last 5 cycles alone. They would send a distress call, wait for the soft-hearted rescue ship to arrive, then strike. Cargo stolen, crew ransomed, ship stripped for parts. Simple, efficient, profitable. What do we know about human rescue protocols? Ralph asked Vis. Insectoid pulled up data on her screens. They respond quickly to distress calls. Analysis of their public record shows average response time of 36 hours. They typically send lightly armed rescue vessels with medical facilities and minimal security forces. Humans value individual life highly, even strangers. The psychological profiles mark them as highly emotional and prone to irrational acts of altruism. TH laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Soft like all the others. Ralph had to agree. He had studied the humans since they joined the galactic community, rich from their industrial worlds, eager to make friends, quick to offer help. They reminded him of the Pellan species, those bird-like fools who sent unarmed medical ships anywhere someone called for help. The syndicate had ambushed 12 Pellan vessels before the bird brains finally stopped responding to distress calls in the outer regions. Humans would learn the same lesson, maybe faster, maybe slower. Either way, the lesson would cost them dearly. Send the signal, Ralph ordered. Vis's fingers flew across the controls. Somewhere in the quantum mesh of faster than light communication, a lie began to spread, a desperate plea for help. Engines failing, life support critical. Colonists dying, please anyone help us. The message used authentication Codes Vis had pulled from a raided human outpost 6 months ago. Old codes, but the humans were still new to space. They probably had not changed their protocols. Yet sloppy, trusting, weak. Signal transmitted. Vis confirmed. Now we wait. Ralph settled into his command chair. Throne built from the whole plating of his first victim ship. The wait was always the hardest part, but he was patient. Patience had made him rich, beyond the dreams of his ancestors, who had scrambled for scraps in the Quinn home world's toxic swamps. Around the bridge, his crew returned to their duties. Weapons Master Grell, a four-armed Sarkot, ran diagnostics on the plasma batteries. Navigator Dren plotted 3 different escape routes just in case. Ralph always had escape routes. That was why he was alive when so many other pirates fed the void. The hours crawled past. Ralph reviewed the cargo holds, mentally cataloging the space available. 3,000 human colonists would bring an incredible ransom. Even if Earth refused to pay, other species would buy human slaves. The mammals were adaptable, could survive in many environments, and their hands could perform delicate work. The merchants guild alone would pay millions, and the ship itself, human vessels, use strain technology different from the standard galactic models, hybrid fusion drives, quantum processors, weapons that fired solid metal slugs instead of energy. Primitive in some ways, surprisingly effective in others. The bone harvesters hold could swallow a colony ship whole if they towed it to the chop yards. This suddenly stiffened all 6 arms, freezing over her console. Captain, we have response already. Ralph sat forward. Show me. The main screen flickered to life. This had intercepted the human response broadcast on their military channels. The message was brief, encrypted, but she cracked it in seconds. Colonial Defense Command acknowledges distress call from New Brisbane. Battle Group Hammer deploying to coordinates. Estimated arrival 72 hours. Hold on. Help is coming. Battle Group Hammer. Ralph felt his first twinge of unease. That sounded military, but Vis had said humans sent rescue ships, not warships. Pull up human fleet designations, he ordered. Vis worked her terminal. Data scrolled across the screens. Then she went very still. Captain, Battle Group Hammer consists of 4 warships, 3 destroyers, and 1 carrier vessel. Estimated crew complement 1,200. Fighter craft complement 60 units. Marine assault teams 400 personnel. The bridge went silent. Breathing became audible, heavy, and uncertain. Ralph forced himself to stay calm. They are sending warships to rescue colonists. It appears so, Captain. Strange. Inefficient. Why send military ships on a rescue mission unless the humans suspected something? But no, impossible. Vis's encryption work was flawless. The codes were genuine. The message was perfect. It changes nothing, Ralph announced, putting confidence in his voice that he did not entirely feel. 4 ships against our 6, and we have the ambush. They will fly into our kill zone, and we will tear them apart. Human warships will bring even better salvage than a colony ship. His crew nodded. Reassured, Ralph was right. The numbers favored them. The position favored them. And they had done this 43 times before. But as the hours ticked toward the human's arrival, Ralph found himself checking the tactical display more often than usual. Something about this felt wrong. Humans were supposed to be soft, emotional, easy prey. So why were they Sending warships. In 72 hours, he would have his answer. Admiral Grace Anquo was reviewing supply requisitions when the priority alert flashed across her desk terminal. She had been Admiral of Colonial Defense Command for 8 years, long enough to know that priority alerts in the middle of the night cycle meant someone was dying or about to die. She opened the message. Distress call, colony ship New Brisbane. 3,000 colonists, life support failing. The coordinates placed it in the outer frontier near the lawless zones where pirate attacks had been increasing. Grace immediately opened the Colonial Registry database. Her fingers moved with practice speed, searching for any vessel named New Brisbane. The search came back empty. She ran it again, expanding parameters to include retired ships, vessels under construction, even proposed colony missions not yet approved. Nothing, no ship named New Brisbane existed in Earth's colonial fleet. Not now, not ever. Grace felt ice settle in her stomach. She opened a channel to the Communications Analysis Division. Tired old-looking lieutenant appeared on her screen, a young woman named Patricia Hayes who handled signal authentication. Lieutenant, I need immediate verification on a distress signal. Sending you the data now. Hayes's eyes moved as she reviewed the information. Her expression shifted from professional alertness to confusion, then to alarm. Admiral, these authentication codes are legitimate, but they are 2 years out of date. We cycled to new protocols after the Den braid. What else? Hayes worked her terminal, pulling up analysis algorithms. The linguistic patterns are wrong too. Humans in genuine distress use contractions, incomplete sentences, emotion in their phrasing. This reads like someone translated a template into perfect grammar. A fake, Grace said. Yes, ma'am, a very good fake, but definitely fake. Grace closed the channel and sat back in her chair. Someone had acquired human distress protocols and was using them as bait. The implications were clear. They wanted to lure an Earthship into a trap, probably pirates, possibly something worse. She could ignore it. Send a warning to all colonial vessels to avoid the area, file a report with Galactic Council, and let them handle it. That would be the safe choice, the politically careful choice. Grace had not become admiral by making safe choices. She opened a fleet-wide command channel. This is Admiral Anquo. I need Captain Reeves of the Retribution in my office immediately. Wake him if necessary. I also need tactical command staff assembled for emergency briefing in 30 minutes. 20 minutes later, Grace stood before a holographic display showing the star system where the fake distress call originated. Around her, 15 officers filled the briefing room, all pulled from their quarters in the middle of sleep cycle. None complained. They knew Grace did not waste their time. Captain David Reeves stood at the front, a tall man with iron gray hair and the kind of calm that came from 20 years commanding warships. He had already reviewed the distress call data on his way to the briefing. Thoughts, Captain? Grace asked. It is a trap, Reeves said. Simply, question is, what kind of trap? And how many hostiles? Intelligence estimates 6 to 8 warships based on typical pirate coalition patterns, said Commander Lisa Park from tactical analysis, probably hiding in the debris field near the coordinates. Standard ambush doctrine. They expect us to send a rescue vessel, lightly armed, focused on medical response, then they strike. Ransom. Scenario someone asked, most likely. Capture the ship, hold the crew for payment. We have seen this pattern from the syndicate organization 17 times in the last 3 years against other species. Grace studied the holographic display. The debris field was dense, perfect for hiding multiple ships. Whoever planned this knew what they were doing, but they had made one critical error. They assumed Earth would respond like other species, send help, hope for the best, negotiate if things went wrong. Earth had learned different lessons during the contact wars. Here is what we are going to do, Grace announced. Captain Reeves, you will take Battle Group Hammer 2. These coordinates, 3 destroyers in the carrier Valiant, full combat. Loadout, fighter wings at maximum capacity. Marine contingent ready for boarding operations. Reeves nodded, unsurprised. Rules of engagement. You will broadcast one warning when you arrive. If they do not immediately surrender, you will eliminate the threat completely. Any survivors will be taken into custody for trial. Grace's voice was steady, showing no emotion. I want to be very clear about our objective. We are not going there to rescue anyone, because there is nobody to rescue. We are going there to teach a lesson. When someone uses Earth's name, when they invoke our protection protocols, they do it with the understanding that we take such things seriously. If they abuse that trust, they face the consequences. The room was silent. Everyone understood what Grace was ordering. This was not a rescue mission. It was a punitive strike. Admiral, the Galactic Council may object, said the legal advisor. Cautious man named Roberts, using military force in response to a fake distress call could be seen as aggressive. Let me worry about the council, Grace replied. Our priority is protecting the integrity of Earth's emergency response systems. If pirates can fake our distress calls without consequence, it endangers every real distress call we might receive in the future. We need to make it very clear that this behavior will not be tolerated. She turned back to Reeves. I want this done quickly and thoroughly. Show them what happens when you pretend to be human colonists in distress. Show them why invoking Earth's name carries weight. Reeves smiled, a cold expression that never reached his eyes. Understood. Admiral, when do we leave? Immediately. Battle Group Hammer is already being prepped. You launch in 4 hours. The briefing dissolved into activity. Officers rushed to their stations, preparing ships, loading weapons, briefing crews. Grace watched them go, feeling the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. She was sending over 1,000 personnel into what might be a significant battle. Some might not come home, but the alternative was worse. If Earth showed weakness now, if they let this insult pass without response, it would invite more attacks, more fake distress calls, more pirates testing their defenses. Eventually real colonists would die because rescue ships stopped responding, afraid of traps. No, better to hit hard now. Establish the rules clearly. Make an example that would echo across the lawless sectors of space. Grace returned to her office and opened a secure channel to Earth's diplomatic corps. They would need to prepare statements for the Galactic Council. The politicians would complain about human aggression, about disproportionate response, about the need for peaceful solutions. Let them complain. Grace's job was not to make friends. Her job was to keep humanity safe. and sometimes safety. Required showing teeth. 4 hours later. Battle Group Hammer engaged their FTL drives and disappeared into the quantum foam of faster-than-light space. Aboard the flagship Retribution, Captain Reeves stood on his bridge and reviewed the mission parameters one final time. Hunt the pirates, destroy the threat, send a message. Simple objectives, clean execution, no mercy for those who preyed on the innocent. The Retribution's engines hummed with restrained power as the ship raced toward confrontation. In 72 hours, someone was going to learn a hard lesson about humanity. Reeves intended to be a very thorough teacher. 3 days of waiting had frayed Ralph's nerves down to raw edges. His crew sensed his tension and stayed quiet, moving through their duties with unusual care. Nobody wanted to attract the captain's attention when he was in this mood. The bone harvester drifted in the shadow of a shattered moon, engines on minimal power to avoid detection. Around them, 5 other ships maintained similar positions throughout the debris field. Ralph's tactical display showed them as green markers scattered across the kill zone. Everything was ready. Everything was perfect, so why did his gut feel wrong? Captain Viss called out, her mandibles clicking rapidly. I have FTL signatures, multiple contacts, 4 ships dropping out of quantum drive at the designated coordinates. Finally, Ralph felt some of his tension ease. The humans had arrived. Whatever doubts he had been feeling were just pre-battle jitters. Once the shooting started, instinct would take over. It always did. Show me, he ordered. The main display lit up with sensor data. 4 ships exactly as the intercepted message had indicated, but these were not the soft rescue vessels Ralph had hoped for. These were warships, clean lines and heavy armor bristling with weapon ports. The largest was a carrier, easily twice the size of the bone harvester. Its hangar bays were already open, launch tubes visible even at this range. The 3 smaller vessels were destroyers, sleeker and faster, positioning themselves in a defensive screen around the carrier. They stopped. TH rumbled, confusion evident in his voice. Why did they stop? The debris field is still 2 million km away. Ralph studied the tactical plot. The human ships had indeed stopped at extreme range, well outside the ambush zone. They were not flying into his trap. They were sitting there scanning, evaluating, almost like they knew. No. Impossible. Viss's work was flawless. Perhaps they are cautious, Ralph said, trying to convince himself, scanning for the distress beacon before committing to rescue. Should we transmit another distress message? Viss asked. Make it more urgent. Draw them in. Before Ralph could answer, his communications panel lit up with an incoming broadcast on all standard frequencies. A human voicemail, speaking in heavily accented but understandable galactic standard. Attention, hostile vessels concealed in debris field grid sectors 4 through 9. This is Captain David Reeves of the United Earth Naval Ship Retribution. You have violated colonial defense protocols by falsifying a human distress signal. This is your only warning. Power down your weapons, disable your FTL drives and prepare to be boarded. You have 5 minutes to comply. After that, we will consider you active threats and respond accordingly. The bridge went dead silent. Every crew member turned to look at Ralph. The captain felt his secondary jaw clenched tight enough to hurt. They knew somehow The humans knew not just that it was a trap, but exactly where his ships were. Hiding impossible, his ships were. Running cold, hidden in sensor shadows. The best military scanners in the galaxy could not pick them out of this debris. Field Houthug whispered. Ralph did not have an answer, but standing here, wondering would not help. He had 6 warships against their 4. He had the defensive position, and he had 43 successful ambushes behind him. The humans might know about the trap, but that did not mean they could win the fight. All ships, Ralph transmitted to his coalition, weapons free, target the carrier first. If we there fighter launch capability, we have the advantage. The 5 other syndicate captains acknowledged. Ralph felt his ship come alive as Gra brought the plasma batteries online. Targeting solutions appeared on his display. The human carrier was a big target, hard to miss. Even at this range. Fire, Ralph ordered. The bone harvester shuddered as its main guns launched superheated plasma across the void. Around him, the other syndicate ships did the same, 18 plasma batteries firing in unison, enough firepower to crack a small moon. The human ships reacted instantly. Their defensive screens flared bright blue as the plasma hit, energy splashing across invisible barriers. When the light faded, all 4 human ships remained intact, shields holding strong. Their shields absorbed everything. Growl reported disbelief in his voice. Reload and fire again. Ralph snapped. Concentrate fire on one destroyer, overwhelm its shields. But the humans were not waiting for a second volley. The carrier's launch tubes erupted with light. 60 small craft poured out in perfect formation, breaking into squadrons with practice. Precision, not cargo shuttles, not rescue pods, fighters, pure combat craft, moving with coordinated grace that spoke of endless training. The 3 destroyers began to move, no longer holding position. They accelerated with shocking speed for ships their size, closing the distance in a way that ignored basic physics as Ralph understood them. And as they moved, their own weapons came online. The first rail gun salvo caught everyone by surprise. No plasma, no energy. Weapons, just solid metal slugs, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The physics were simple. The results were devastating. One of Ralph's coalition ships, a frigate, captained by a Quinn named Vel, took 3 railgun rounds through its forward section. The kinetic energy did not just penetrate the shields, it went through them like they were not there. The frigate's entire bow section disintegrated, atmosphere and crew venting into space in a cloud of frozen debris. Return fire, Ralph screamed. All ships evasive maneuvers and returned fire. The battle dissolved into chaos. Syndicate ships broke from their hiding positions, trying to spread out and divide the human targets, but the humans fought like nothing Ralph had ever seen. The destroyers did not chase individual targets, they moved as a unit, supporting each other, creating overlapping fields of fire that turned the space between them into a death zone. And those fighters Ralph watched in horror as human pilots executed attack runs with suicidal precision. They did not dogfight, they dove straight at syndicate ships in coordinated waves, launched torpedoes at point-blank range, then peeled away before defensive fire could track them. A syndicate destroyer, the heavy cruiser, commanded by Captain Doctor, tried to run. It got 50 km before human fighters swarmed it, 12 torpedoes hit in rapid succession. The cruiser's engines exploded, leaving it dead and drifting. Captain, our shields are at 40%, Gree reported. We have taken multiple hits. Hull breaches on deck 7 and 9. Ralph stared at his tactical display. In less than 3 minutes of combat, he had lost 2 ships completely, 3 more were heavily damaged. The humans had not even brought their carrier into effective weapons range. They were winning with just their escorts and fighters. This was not a battle, it was an execution. All ships retreat, Ralph transmitted. Engage FTL drive scatter pattern every ship for themselves. 2 ships managed to jump. Their FTL drives lit up and they vanished into quantum space. The other 3, including the bone harvester, were not so lucky. Ralph's FTL systems were offline, damaged by a railgun round that had punched through his stern. Those engines online, Ralph ordered. Trying, Captain, we need at least 10 minutes for repairs. 10 minutes, Ralph looked at his display. The human destroyers were closing fast. He did not have 10 minutes, he had maybe 2. All power to weapons, Ralph said quietly. If we are going down, we take some of them with us. The bone harvester turned to face its executioners, weapons charging for one last desperate stand. Lieutenant Amy Ase pulled her fighter into a tight spiral, feeling the G-forces push against her flight suit. Despite the inertial dampeners, her call was Razor earned 3 years ago during a border skirmish when she had cut through an enemy formation like a blade through paper. Razor flight form up on me, she transmitted to her squadron. Target priority is the big ugly freighter at grid 7, looks like their command ship. 11 acknowledgements came back instantly. Razor flight was the best squadron in the carrier Valiant fighter wing, and they knew it. They had trained together for 2 years, running endless drills until they could fly in perfect formation with their eyes closed. Amy checked her weapons display. 4 anti-8 ship torpedoes, 2 defensive countermeasure pods, and her mass driver cannon for close work, more than enough to ruin someone's day. Flight execute. Attack pattern Delta 3, staggered. Approach high-low split torpedoes on my mark. Her squadron split smoothly into 2 groups. 6 fighters went high, 6 went low, creating a pincer approach that would divide enemy defensive fire. The pirate ship ahead tried to track them, its turrets swinging wildly, but Amy could see the confusion in their firing patterns. They were not military, just criminals who had gotten lucky too many times. Their luck had run out. Torpedoes away, Amy called, and 12 fighters launched simultaneously. 48 torpedoes streak across the void, solid fuel rockets pushing them to incredible speeds. The pirate ship's point defense systems managed to intercept maybe 1/3 of them. The rest hit home. Amy watched her helmet display as the explosions rippled across the enemy hull. Each torpedo carried a shaped charge designed to punch through capital ship armor against a converted freighter. With civilian-grade plating, they were devastatingly effective. Good hits, someone called out. Target is crippled, engines offline. Razor flight break and reform, Amy ordered. Command, this is Razor lead. Primary target neutralized, requesting new assignment. Captain Reeves's voice came through her. Calm, steady, and professional. Good work, Razor. Cover the marine assault shuttles. They are going in for boarding. Action, Amy guided her squadron into a defensive screen around 3 blocky assault shuttles that were burning hard. Toward the crippled pirate flagship, she could see the other squadrons mopping up the remaining enemy ships. 2 had escaped, jumping to FTL before the destroyers could disable them. The others were either destroyed or dead in space, waiting for human marines to come aboard. The whole engagement had lasted maybe 6 minutes from first shot to final surrender. Amy had been in training exercises that took longer. All fighters watch for escape pods came the order from Valiant Flight Control. Command wants prisoners for intelligence. Any pod that tries to run, disable it but do not destroy. Copy that. Valiant. Razor Flight. Acknowledging. Amy settled into patrol pattern, watching her sensors for any sign of movement from the debris field. This was the boring part, the cleanup after the rush of combat faded, but it was necessary work. The captain wanted answers, and answers required prisoners who could talk. She glanced at her fuel gauge, plenty left for another hour of patrol at least. Behind her, the carrier Valiant hung in space like a protective fortress, its bulk reassuring. The 3 destroyers had formed a perimeter, weapons still hot, ready to engage any surprise threats. Amy allowed herself a small smile inside her helmet. The pirates had tried to set a trap for Earth. Instead, they had learned why humanity did not send rescue ships to distress calls anymore. They sent warships, and those warships came ready for war. Back aboard the destroyer Retribution, Captain Reeves watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The engagement had gone exactly as planned. Overwhelming force, precise application of firepower, minimal risk to his own people. Textbook execution. Casualty report. He asked his executive officer, Commander Patricia Hayes. Consulted her terminal. 3 wounded, all minor. Fighter pilot clipped by debris. 2 sailors injured during evasive maneuvers. Medical says everyone will make full recovery. Enemy casualties estimated 200 dead across all hostile vessels. 47 survivors accounted for. Currently being processed by Marine boarding teams. We also recovered 23 individuals from the cargo holds of the flagship. Looks like prisoners from previous raids. Multiple species represented. Reeves felt a cold anger settle in his chest. Prisoners. The pirates had not just been ambushing ships, they had been taking slaves. That changed things. That made this personal. I want every surviving pirate in custody. Reeves ordered full documentation of crimes, evidence preserved for trial, and I want to know everything about their organization, where they operate, who leads them, how many other ships they have. Hayes nodded. The Marines are already working on it, sir. Initial reports indicate this was part of a larger coalition called the Syndicate. At least 20 ships total operating across 6 systems. Where is their main base? Interrogations are ongoing, but we have already extracted coordinates from their navigation computers 2 systems away, hidden in an asteroid cluster. Reeves considered this information. The smart play would be to report back to Admiral Ayenquo, request addition forces, mount a proper assault on the pirate base. That was doctrine, that was procedure, but Reeves had not risen to captain by always following procedure. Send a priority message to Colonial Defense Command, he ordered. Inform Admiral Ayenquo that we have successfully Eliminated immediate threat. Request. Permission to pursue hostile contacts to their point of origin and neutralize. Remaining threat. Haze raised and eyebrow, sir, we do not know how many ships are at that base. Could be a dozen or more. We have 3 destroyers, a carrier and 60 fighters, plus 400 Marines who are very motivated after seeing what these pirates did to their prisoners. Reeves smiled thinly. I think we can handle it. Yes, sir. Transmitting message now. Reeves turned his attention back to the main display. The crippled pirate flagship floated there, its hull torn open in a dozen places, atmosphere venting in thin streams that caught the distant starlight. Somewhere inside that wreck, the pirate captain was learning what it meant to invoke Earth's protection falsely. The communications panel chimed. Hayes looked up in surprise. Sir, we have a response from Admiral Ayenquo already. She must have been waiting for our report. Put it through. Admiral Ayenquo's face appeared on the screen, her expression neutral but her eyes showing approval. Captain Reeves, your request is approved. Battle Group Hammer is authorized to pursue and eliminate remaining syndicate forces. Rules of engagement remain the same. One warning. Then weapons free. I'm also dispatching battle groups Anvil and Shield to support you. They will arrive at the coordinates in 18 hours. Understood, Admiral. We will begin pursuit immediately. One more thing, Captain. Make sure the galaxy understands the message we are sending. When someone uses our name when they pretend to be human colonists in distress, there are consequences, severe consequences. Message received. Admiral Battle Group Hammer will ensure the lesson is clear. Ayenquo nodded and closed the channel. Reeves took a deep breath and turned to his bridge crew. They were watching him, waiting for orders. Young faces, experienced faces, all professionals who had trained for this moment. Set course for the syndicate base. Reeves announced. Best possible speed. Inform the other ships we are moving out in 1 hour. I want full combat readiness maintained throughout the journey. Bridge erupted into controlled activity. Navigation plotted the course. Engineering prepared the FTL drives. Weapons division began reloading torpedo tubes and railgun magazines. Everything moving like a well-oiled machine. Reeves allowed himself a moment of pride. This was why Earth had survived first contact with hostile species. This was why humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through determination and the willingness to protect their own. The pirates had made a fatal mistake. They thought humans were soft, easy targets. They thought a fake distress call would bring mercy and compassion. They were about to learn that human compassion had limits, and beyond those limits lay something far more dangerous. Battle Group Hammer engaged its drives and vanished into FTL space, hunting the hunters who had dared to wear humanity's face. Sergeant Carlos Webb checked his rifle one last time before the breaching pod made contact with the pirate ship. 20 years as a Marine had taught him that checking your weapon was never wasted time. The difference between a functioning rifle and a jammed one was usually the difference between going home and going home in a box. 30 seconds to breach, the pilot announced over the squad channel. Carlos looked at his team, 8 Marines in full combat armor, faces hidden behind helmets, weapons ready. He knew each of them personally, knew their strengths, their Weaknesses, their families back on Earth, he had trained them, fought beside them, and trusted them with his life. Remember the brief, Carlos said, his voice calm despite the adrenaline pumping through his system. We go in hard, secure the bridge and engineering. First, rules of engagement are standard. Hostile action gets hostile response. Anyone who surrenders gets zip-tied and processed. No heroics, no individual actions. We move as a unit. 8 acknowledgments came back. Pod shuddered as magnetic clamps locked onto the pirate ship's hull. Carlos felt the familiar pre-combat focus settle over him. Everything else faded away. No past, no future, just the next few minutes and the job that needed doing. Breaching in 3, 2, 1, the shape char blew a hole in the hull big enough to drive a truck through. Atmosphere screamed out into vacuum for half a second before emergency bulkheads slammed shut deeper in the ship. Carlos was through the hole before the metal stopped glowing, his rifle upend scanning for targets. The corridor beyond was dark except for emergency lighting. Smoke hung in the air from the breach. Carlos's helmet automatically switched to thermal imaging, painting the world in shades of heat signature. Clear left, he called. Clear right came the response from Private Anderson. The team moved forward in textbook formation. 2 on point, 2 covering rear, 4 in the middle, ready to respond to threats from any direction. They had done this drill 1,000 times in training. Now it was real. The first contact came at a junction 30 m from the breach point. 3 pirate crew members rounded the corner, weapons in hand but clearly disorganized and panicking. They saw the human Marines and made the mistake of raising their guns. Carlos's team fired first, precise 3-round burst, center mass. All 3 pirates went down in less than a second. Carlos did not feel anything about it. They had made their choice. When they pulled weapons, his job was to bring his people home alive. Contacts neutralized, keep moving. They pushed deeper into the ship, following the maps extracted from the pirate navigation computers. The bone harvester was big, a converted bulk freighter with dozens of decks and hundreds of compartments. Carlos's team was one of 12 assault teams sweeping through the vessel simultaneously. Sergeant Webb, this is assault team 3, a voice crackled over the command channel. We have found something in cargo hold 5. You need to see this. Carlos frowned. What is it? Prisoners. Sarge, lots of them. Carlos redirected his team toward cargo hold 5. They moved fast, encountering scattered resistance that melted away when the pirates realized they were facing professional soldiers. Most of the enemy crew were hiding or trying to reach escape pods. Smart ones surrendered immediately when they saw human Marines. Cargo hold 5 was in the ship's central section, a cavernous space designed to hold thousands of tons of freight. When Carlos entered, he understood why Assault Team 3 had called him. The hold had been converted into a prison. Crude cells made from welded metal bars lined the walls. Inside those cells were people, not humans, but definitely people, different species, different body types, but all showing the same signs of abuse and neglect. Carlos counted 23 individuals total. Most were huddled in corners, watching the Marines with eyes that held no hope. A few looked defiant despite their circumstances. All of them were malnourished and injured to varying degrees. Medical team to cargo hold 5. Immediately, Carlos transmitted, we have Prisoners in need of immediate care. He approached the nearest cell carefully. Hands visible, rifle pointed at the ground. Inside was a small creature, covered in gray fur, possibly a child by the proportions. The creature flinched. When Carlos got close, "It is okay," Carlos said softly, not knowing if the translator would work. "We are humans. We are here to help." The creature stared at him with large eyes. Then, slowly it moved toward the bars. Carlos used his rifle stock to break the lock. The cell door swung open. The creature hesitated, then stepped out onto freedom. For the first time in who knew how long. Around the hold, other Marines were opening cells, helping prisoners out, providing water and emergency rations. The medical team arrived and began assessing injuries. Most of the freed prisoners seemed to be in shock, unable to believe they were being rescued. "Sergeant, we have a problem," Anderson called from across the hold. Carlos jogged over. Anderson was standing near a computer terminal built into the wall. The screen showed a map of the galaxy, with various markers scattered across it. "What am I looking at?" Carlos asked. "Pirate rating records, dates, location, targets. This goes back 5 years, Sarge. Dozens of attacks, maybe hundreds." Anderson scrolled through the data. "And look at this. Coordinates for their main base, complete roster of ships, command structure, everything." Carlos felt cold satisfaction. This was better than he had hoped. Not just evidence for prosecuting the pirates they had captured, but intelligence that could dismantle their entire operation. "Download everything," Carlos ordered. "Full copy to our tactical database. Command is going to want this." The sweep of the bone harvester took another 2 hours. By the end, Carlos's teams had secured the entire vessel. Final count was 47 pirates captured alive, over 200 confirmed dead, and 23 prisoners liberated from the cargo holds. The pirate captain, a Quinn named Ralph, was found on the bridge trying to activate the ship's self-destruct system. He failed because human technical specialists had already disabled all critical systems remotely. When Carlos's team zip-tied Ralph's hands and dragged him off his own bridge, the pirate captain said nothing. He just stared with defeated eyes. Carlos did not feel sympathy. He had seen the prisoners in the cargo hold. He had reviewed the records of attacks going back years. This creature had caused immeasurable suffering for profit. Whatever punishment awaited him would be too gentle. Back aboard the Retribution, Captain Reeves reviewed the intelligence gathered from the pirate flagship. Data was comprehensive, almost unbelievably detailed. The syndicate had kept records of everything like they never expected to face consequences. Tactical analysis complete. Commander Hayes reported the main syndicate base is located in the Coral asteroid field, approximately 9 hours away at maximum FTL speed. Estimated force strength is 12 to 15 warships of various classes, plus support vessels and infrastructure. Reeves nodded slowly. "When will battle groups Anvil and Shield arrive?" 18 hours, sir. They're coming as fast as they can, but we got here first. So, we can wait for backup or we can strike now. Well, they do not know we are coming. Hayes understood the implicit question, sir. Even with 3 battle groups attacking a fortified position is risky. Their base will have defensive platforms, mines, prepared firing positions. We could take heavy casualties. Reeves looked at the main display. Thinking, finally, he made his decision. We wait for backup. I will not risk my people unnecessarily. He paused, then added, but we start reconnaissance immediately. I want every approach mapped, every defensive position identified. When we do hit them, I want it to be overwhelming and decisive. Yes, sir. Reeves stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Behind him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Somewhere out there, pirate scum were going about their business thinking they were safe. They were wrong. In 18 hours, 3 Earth battle groups would arrive with enough firepower to crack a planet, and the Syndicate was going to learn the hardest lesson of their existence. You do not fake human distress calls. You do not prey on the innocent, and you definitely do not underestimate what happens when Earth sends warships instead of rescue vessels. The lesson was about to be taught, and it would be permanent. The Galactic Council chamber on Station Unity held representatives from 43 species. Ambassador Ruth Kamani walked to the central podium with her head high and her evidence prepared. She knew what was coming. Half the species in this room would condemn Earth's actions. The other half would privately thank her while publicly remaining neutral. Politics never changed, no matter how far from Earth you traveled. The council speaker, an ancient Peel with silver feathers, opened the session. Ambassador Kamani, you have requested emergency session to address recent military actions by Earth forces in the outer frontier. The floor is yours. Ruth activated the holographic display. Images appeared above the podium, clear and damning. 7 days ago, Colonial Defense Command received a distress call claiming to be from colony vessel New Brisbane. Investigation revealed this distress call was fabricated by a pirate coalition known as the Syndicate, using stolen Earth communication protocols. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Ruth continued, her voice steady. The Syndicate's intention was to lure Earth rescue vessels into an ambush for purposes of ransom and theft. Instead, Earth deployed Battle Group Hammer, 3 destroyers and 1 carrier to investigate. What they found was 6 pirate warships waiting in ambush formation. The holographic display shifted, showing tactical footage from the battle. The council representatives watched in silence as human destroyers tore through pirate formations with brutal efficiency. The engagement lasted 6 minutes from first contact to final surrender. Earth forces eliminated or captured all hostile vessels with minimal casualties. During boarding operations, our Marines discovered evidence of systematic predation spanning 5 years. The Syndicate had conducted over 40 ambush raids against vessels from multiple species, resulting in hundreds of deaths and an unknown number of individuals taken as slaves. Ruth pulled up another image. 23 faces appeared representing different species from across the galaxy. These individuals were recovered from the Syndicate flagship's cargo holds, where they were being held as prisoners. Some had been captive for over a year. All showed signs of abuse and neglect. The chamber remained silent. Ruth knew she had their attention now. Intelligence recovered from Syndicate computers revealed the location of their main base in the Coral asteroid field. Earth forces, reinforced by battle groups Anvil and SHIELD, conducted an assault on this facility 18 hours ago. The display shifted again, showing the asteroid field, then it showed the Assault 3. Earth battle groups moving in perfect coordination, overwhelming defensive positions with precision fire. The Syndicate base had lasted perhaps 20 minutes before surrender. Final accounting of the operation is as follows: Syndicate forces completely dismantled, 17 warships destroyed or captured, over 300 pirates detained for trial, an additional 96 prisoners of various species liberated from the base facilities, complete records of Syndicate operations recovered and being shared with all affected governments. Ruth paused, letting the numbers sink in, then she addressed the real reason for this emergency session. Some council members have expressed concern about Earth's military response. They argue it was disproportionate, aggressive, and overreaction to a single fake distress call. Ruth's voice hardened. I am here to explain why they are wrong. She gestured to the images of freed prisoners still displayed above her. When someone invokes Earth's protection protocols, when they use our distress codes, they are making a claim about human compassion. They are betting that we will come to help, that we value life enough to risk our own people for strangers. The Syndicate tried to weaponize that compassion. They tried to use our protective instincts as bait for a trap. If we had ignored this, if we had shown weakness, it would have invited more attacks, more fake distress calls, more pirates realizing they could exploit human nature for profit. Ruth's eyes swept the chamber, making contact with representative after representative. So yes, Earth responded with overwhelming military force. Yes, we dismantled an entire pirate organization in less than a week, and yes, we will do it again if anyone else tries to abuse our emergency protocols. A Brel representative stood, massive and intimidating. Ambassador Kamani, your actions have destabilized the balance of power in the frontier regions. Many species are concerned about human military expansion. Ruth faced the Bree without flinching. The balance of power in the frontier was that pirates operated freely, preying on anyone weak enough to attack. That balance is broken now. Good. The new balance is that Earth protects anyone who genuinely needs help and punishes anyone who pretends otherwise. You cannot police the entire galaxy. Another representative objected. We do not intend to, Ruth replied. We intend to protect our own people in our protocols. If other species want to continue letting pirates attack their vessels without consequence, that is their choice, but Earth will not tolerate false distress calls ever. The council speaker tapped his staff for order. The council must vote on whether Earth's actions violated interstellar law. The vote took 10 minutes. When it finished, the results were closer than Ruth had hoped, but still in Earth's favor. 26 species voted to recognize Earth's response as lawful defense. 12 voted against, 5 abstained. After the session ended, Ruth returned to her office, feeling exhausted but satisfied. Her terminal showed 17 requests for private meetings, all from species whose representatives had voted in Earth's favor. They wanted mutual defense treaties, technology sharing agreements, and military cooperation pacts. Earth had proven something important. They were not conquerors seeking to dominate the galaxy, but they were also not victims to be exploited. They occupied a middle ground that many species found attractive, strong enough to protect their interests, principled enough to be trustworthy allies. Ruth approved 3 of the meeting requests and flagged the rest for staff review. Then she opened the final report. From Battle Group Hammer, Captain Reeves had written it personally, detailed and professional. The syndicate was gone. Completely and permanently, every ship. Destroyed or impounded, every pirate. Either dead or awaiting trial, every stolen good returned to legitimate owners where possible, every prisoner freed and receiving medical care. Report's final paragraph made Ruth smile. Battle Group Hammer returning to normal patrol duties, all personnel and vessels in excellent condition. Mission accomplished with 0 friendly casualties. Recommend continued aggressive response to any future threats against Earth. Emergency protocols. The galaxy is watching and we have shown them what happens when you invoke our name falsely. Message delivered clearly and permanently. Ruth filed the report and leaned back in her chair. Outside her window station, Unity hung in space, a monument to cooperation between species. Earth was still new to this galactic community, still finding its place among ancient civilizations. But they had established something important, a reputation, a standard, a line that nobody would cross without facing consequences. Somewhere in the frontier regions, a merchant captain whose ship carried Earth-built engines received a distress call. She hesitated, remembering the syndicate's fate. Then she changed course to investigate, because she knew if it was real, Earth would want someone to help, and if it was fake, Earth would want to know. The distress call was genuine. A mining crew trapped by equipment failure. The merchant captain coordinated rescue operations and filed a report with Earth authorities, who dispatched proper support vessels within hours. Nobody faked distress calls anymore. The lesson had been learned. On the Retribution, now 3 systems away on regular patrol, Captain Reeves received notification of another distress signal. This one was verified authentic. Civilian transport experiencing engine trouble in a dangerous sector. Set course. Reeves ordered best possible speed. Broadcast our arrival time on all frequencies so they know help is coming. The destroyer's engines hummed to life, carrying a promise across the void. Earth would answer distress calls. Earth would protect the innocent. Earth would come when you needed them. But if you lied, if you faked that call to set a trap, Earth would still come, just not with rescue ships. They would send warships, and they would send fire. Galaxy had learned that lesson. Some learned it from reports and testimony in council chambers. Others learned it the hard way in the brief terror between realizing their mistake and facing the consequences. Either way, the message was clear. Human compassion was real, powerful, and extended to anyone who needed it. Genuinely, human wrath was equally real and reserved for those who tried to exploit that compassion for evil purposes. The balance was fair, the rules were simple, and Earth would enforce both with absolute determination. Across the stars, in quiet corners and dangerous sectors, beings of every species whispered the new wisdom.